So I've definitely got to say, while I feel a little blue-balled to the cliffhanger of last chapter, considering the stab that this mummy gives to Okarun in the chest is essentially just a small flesh wound, I definitely enjoyed the dynamic that Okarun and Momo showed during this chapter. Whether Okarun intentionally did this or not, he essentially fulfilled the exact conditions that he wanted to when he said he wanted to reach out to Momo and be the one to defend her and be a friend with her, rather than Momo simply just pitying Okarun because she was supposed to remember their great friendship. And in this fight, that is essentially what he does. When he told Momo to run away and go find Gigi because Gigi would be much better protecting her than he ever could, she outright refuses and says no. Not just because she trusts Okarun and the capability that he's shown to her, but also the fact that subconsciously and also in the moment, she knows he is the only one that is capable of defending her right now and honestly forever. She believes Okarun can overcome this hurdle and beat this foe, and that is essentially what he does. And even if you want to say that Okarun getting an extra energy boost from Momo isn't necessarily him proving himself to her that he can fight on his own, I do still love that even now, Momo's body kind of subconsciously remembers the flow of her chi, the flow of her energy and spiritual power. Even though her brain is kind of amnesiac right now, her body and just her subtle reflexes still remember enough about psychic kinesis to be able to power Okarun's Ogre Club up to the size of a Buster Blade like his Final Fantasy VII Cloud. Not only do I absolutely love this, as it shows that Momo truly is the fuel to Okarun's fire. She is the light that gasses him up and gives him the power he needs to feel confident and feel strong in himself. And while there are so many metaphors that lay that kind of plot thread out across the entire series, this is one of the biggest moments that we see it happen right before our eyes in quite literal physical incarnation. So I've got to give Yuki Nobutatsu props for that, because it definitely made this fight so much more enjoyable, because you're hitting so many different stones at once. You're showing how much formidable Okarun has become even without Turbo Granny's powers, showing that Momo, even while she's completely powerless and defenseless, is able to completely rely on Okarun now. And even though she has no memory or even reason to believe Okarun is the one that can bring her the utmost safety, again, Gigi, she still remembers being a friend with since childhood. So it cannot be stressed enough that when given the option to go find someone that she's known throughout her entire life and trust this, as far as she's concerned, absolute stranger, Okarun shows off as a much larger beacon of light than Gigi ever could, which I've got to say just proves to me that Gigi never had a chance when it came to a romantic option against Okarun. Because even now, when Momo has no memories whatsoever, she cannot differentiate the slight little crush she may have had on Gigi and the physical attraction she may have to him now that he's grown up and he's bulked up and he's a lot taller. What Momo is attracted to is Okarun's personality, who he is, and the fact that he will do anything he can to protect her. Even though Gigi, you could say, would probably do the exact same thing, there is just a connection that Momo has to Okarun that Gigi cannot live up to, and this is the purest truth of that, and it cannot be denied now. You also have the fact that Okarun and the Ogre Club are tied together. The Ogre Club will only work for Okarun, which means two things. For one, it means that he can no longer shift responsibility to someone else. Just as I previously elaborated on the fact that Momo would refuse the protection of Gigi in order to get protection from Okarun, on top of this, the fact that he tries to give Momo the Ogre Club because he believes her chi would just flow a lot easier into the weapon and she's just completely unable to use it, it also proves that this weapon is essentially the story telling Okarun that he can no longer rely on others, and now is his time to prove himself and what he is capable of. And not only that, but it allows Momo to work in a way that she hasn't since the very beginning of the series. Because if you remember, in chapter 2, when they went up against the Flatwoods alien, where this fight went is Okarun with his Turbo Granny powers, despite he was unsure of how to use it completely, he was able to find the confidence and resolve to push through the pain that the transformation caused him and use his all-out speed to get a good shot in on the alien that was working for the Serpoans.
This video is sponsored by GamerSupps, the ultimate energy and focus formula. Use my code NOOP now for 10% off, and thank you GamerSupps for sponsoring the channel.
Meanwhile, Momo, who again wasn't completely keen on all of her psychic abilities yet, used what else she had at her disposal: her strong mind and her high level of intellect, which is something that I've always loved Momo for throughout the entire course of DanDaDan. We even saw that before she lost her memories and when she was working with Vamola against the ninja gecko chameleon dude, because she is just so strategic when it comes to combat. And this as a perfect parallel to that fight back in part 2. Okarun is the power, the one that, despite believing he is the weakest one in the room, is the one that has to end up using his strength to get the win, but also at the same time, he's able to get that win and feel as strong as he needs to be to get that victory when he has someone like Momo not just backing him up and telling him that he can do it and supporting him, but also using her smarts and her own advantages outside of her psychic powers to give Okarun the perfect opportunity to win the battle. And that is exactly what they end up doing in this chapter, because the mummy sees an echolocation. So while everything is pitch black, where Momo and Okarun are basically stranded on this small white plotch of street paint that is essentially the only physical thing left in reality, the mummy is able to soar through this empty space in darkness and essentially know where they are at all times. And when Okarun is completely at a loss for what to do here, just waving the sword around endlessly and hoping it connects and just barely being able to block the Keraton mummy slashes, what Momo is able to do is able to pair this reveal that it's using echolocation with the idea that if they unravel the mummy will no longer be able to regenerate. And once it's unable to regenerate, as we see at the very end of the chapter, the mummy is unable to keep its physical form. As with any realistically logical mummy, what's gonna happen when you unwrap all of the, remains that have been decomposing and falling apart and just crumbling for centuries, if not millennia? They're just gonna wither away like dust in the wind, and that is exactly what ends up happening to the Keraton mummy, getting Okarun and Momo the victory in, as always, one of the craziest and most classic tag team duo fashions that only is capable in DanDaDan. And like I said, not only do I think this works as a perfect parallel that shows how far these two characters have come since chapter 2 of the series, but even with Momo losing all of her memories and putting all of her faith in Okarun, this essential stranger, it shows that their love is true and transcends any kind of memory loss or any kind of physical or astral planes that could get between them. And I've got to say, watching Okarun wield what is essentially a Buster Blade is one of the coolest images that I did not expect to get on this Monday today. But as always, DanDaDan chapters are some of the most unpredictable things we can ever expect. And speaking of unpredictability, I also, now that we've beaten the mummy, have no idea where we could possibly go from here. Because are the Serpoans gonna get completely beaten by the space alien? And is the space alien going to have a moment with Okarun and Momo and have to maybe forgive them character-wise? Is Count Saint Germain gonna show up? Is the other half of the protagonists like Unji and Daiki gonna be revealed and cast some more light onto this whole amnesia ritual thing? There are so many pathways that this story could go, and as always, you already know without a doubt, I will be right here on this channel every week covering the story and giving you the best possible interpretation that I can. So guys, if you don't want to miss that, make sure you subscribe and like the video so more DanDaDan fans can see it, hype the video, and most importantly, if you read any other series weekly like Gachi Akuta, Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, Kagurabachi, or Sakamoto Days, you You can find it on this channel, as well as any other long-form content that you may be looking for on the main channel, or some gameplay content on the live channel, guys. So if any of that sounds interesting and you're looking for some stuff to binge, don't be scared to check that out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.